Tailoring talkers, welcome back. Yes, it's finally time. Time to light the fuse. Dum 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 dum. That just went wrong straight away. We were meant to be a cappellaing the theme tune. We might get there by the end of this.
That was perfect.
To avoid a copyright strike. No, it was rubbish. Right, I'm going to play the trailer now.
Good morning, Mr. Phelps. This is your mission should you choose to accept it. Should you or any member of your IM force be caught or killed, the Secretary will disavow all knowledge of your actions. Ethan Hunt will be your point man, as usual. Good luck, Jim.
Simple game. Is he serious?
Always.
It's much worse than you think.
We're being ambushed. Abort, that's an order. They knew we were coming. Do you read me?
I don't care how he did it. I want to know why he did it. You're worried about me. Why you survived.
I'm sure we can find something I have that you need.
No one sent me.
These guys are trained to be ghosts. Let's not waste time chasing after him. Just make him come to us. Find something that's personally important to him, and you squeeze.
This whole operation was a decoy.
I can understand you're very upset.
You've never seen me very upset.
This tape will self-destruct in 5 seconds.
Yes, welcome to the Tailoring Talk Magazine movie marathon, and this time we have chosen to accept the mission of watching every single Mission Impossible movie leading up to the release of Mission Impossible: The Final Reckoning in May 2025. It's Roberto here, and I'm joined by my amazing TTM co-hosts. First off, our very own Benji, because if I take my contact lenses out with a minus 7.5 vision, he looks like Simon Pegg. It's John Evans. John, how are you?
Well, I mean, considering who's going to be talking about the gadgets, maybe I'm Benji by looks and Alex is Benji by doing. So I'm very well, thank you very much. I thought I did a very good job with the intro, with the music. I feel hurt that you didn't like it, but there you go. I have been practicing for hours doing that. I'm very excited about the next few films we're going to talk about because I love these films as well. So it's nice to watch.
John, music is part melody and part timing. In fact, it's a lot of timing, and you need to work on the timing.
Yeah, okay.
Bless you. And as ever, John just gave it away, but we can't deep dive on a movie without our very own gadget guru. Give him a shave, lay him out in the sun for a few weeks, and we have our very own Luther / Bing Rames doppelganger. Of course, it's Alex Hansford. Alex, how are you?
That's quite inappropriate, Bobby. I'm all right. I'm okay, thank you. Yeah. I'll take that as a compliment because it very much is one. But I don't know.
Anyway, there we go. Some housekeeping before we begin. If you're listening on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, please give us a rating and review, and don't base it on John's singing. And if you're watching on YouTube, we'd appreciate your support by hitting that like button and subscribing so you don't miss a moment of us deep diving into one of the great action franchises in modern motion picture history. Yes, I said it. This intro will self-destruct in 5 seconds, after which we will be detonating spoilers all over the place. You have been warned. Right, so guys, Mission Impossible, finally we're here. Let's go back to 1996. And Alex, memories of the film? Well, actually, do you want to just give the people watching on YouTube a little view of what you're wearing today?
I'm really hot right now because I'm wearing a jacket. It's not just any jacket. I know it is cold out there at the moment, but it's actually an important jacket because it's a Mission Impossible crew jacket.
Wow.
So this is one of the originals. It's one of the crew jackets that was given to my father-in-law for the Mission Impossible 1 film. So, and it's remarkably warm. It's just apart from the logo, which is the old logo, because obviously this was before we had the new franchise branding. But so it's the old style logo, and it's stitched. And you can actually see the stitching on the inside. So they go all the way through. So they must do this for all films pretty much. This was a little memento of my father-in-law's work on Mission Impossible as a carpenter.
Bless. And alas, any listeners that are waiting for some stories from Alex's father-in-law, we're not going to go there because he basically said, well, I don't know, it was just a job, wasn't it? There we go. But thanks for that little fashion show, Alex. That was more than we asked for. And less entertaining than your last little twirl in the chair. When
Well, I didn't expose myself this time, so that's a
we've got a view of the Hansford in all its glory. But that's very cool. What size is it?
Oh, it's I think it's a large, a medium.
Yeah, that'll do. Send it over.
I'm not sure, but it's quite snug and remarkably hot. So if you're outside, it's really at this time of year, it's very good.
Yeah, well, thank you. That's great, and also a tenuous way to sort of bring some fashion / tailoring into the podcast. So link done. Yeah. Anyway, sorry. So aside from that little memento from Amy's dad, Alex, you go back to mid-90s. Mission Impossible, was it on your radar? Was it something you saw at the cinema? Was it something you didn't really care about until J.J. Abrams took over the franchise? What's the story?
Yeah, it's a good question actually. I don't have that much memory of it. I think because I would have been 16 at the time. So it was just. I just think it obviously happened, and but I think I would have watched it on video. I don't think I would have gone to the cinema to watch it. At that time, I was too busy trying to get into pubs.
Something else.
A drink. No, pubs.
Yeah, pubs. Go with P. Pubs. Yep.
Pubs. Yeah. But yeah, so I was too busy getting into that. But I think it was I think it was something that I must have seen on video. So yeah, and I think it's an interesting. It's like James Bond had a distinct memory for me, but this particular one didn't. I don't know why. I had knowledge of it, but it wasn't something I was excited about. So yeah, found it interesting rewatching it.
Cool, John.
I did see this at the cinema. I was a big fan of the original 1960 series, mainly because I'm a big Star
When you
Trek
were a
fan.
teenager.
Well, the repeats. BBC Two used to do a really good thing on BBC Two on sort of 6 p.m. in the evening, would show things like Star Trek and Mission Impossible, because they were re-syndicated, so they could sell them off to other television companies. And I used to sit and watch them mainly because Leonard Nimoy was a character from the original series, so I watched it because of him and really enjoyed it. And so when this film came out in the cinema, I was dead keen to see how they were going to adapt it to the big screen with the new characters. There was a rather dodgy 1980s Mission Impossible series that had Phelps in it as well, the same actor who played Jim Phelps, but I'm not sure that's quite as famous. But yeah, I was really keen to see it at the cinema, so I went and saw it. I would have been in my mid-20s at the time when I watched that. So, yeah, I've seen them all in the cinema.
Yeah. So I think around that time I was in my teens as well, but I just started going to the cinema a lot on my own. Sometimes with friends, but mostly on my own. And I would go because I was just obsessed with movies. So I would go, like, if I had a college day where I only had morning lessons and then I had the whole afternoon off, then I'd just go down to the cinema and watch a couple movies or something. So I do remember seeing this in the cinema on my own. And also, I was very, very into my music, so I was always at R Price or Woolies, getting whatever I could. And I got the soundtrack to this, and I also got the single, the Adam Clayton, Larry Mullen version of the original theme song. So yeah, so it was kind of quite prevalent, but maybe not quite as prevalent. I don't even know how you pronounce that word. I've
Prevalent.
probably butchered it. Prevalent, sorry. Probably wasn't as prevalent as Bond, because it was a movie based on a TV show, which kind of wasn't really the way round that they did things that commonly back in those days. Um, so yeah, but it was Tom Cruise and it was cool. And I remember getting it on VHS when it came out on VHS, and then I would rewatch it, and it was mainly because of a certain set piece that is now a part of action cinema history that we will really, really get into. And on that note, I just want to explain to you, the viewers at home, and the listeners, that this is going to be a discussion. We're not going to be doing a blow-by-blow plot analysis of this film, but we're going to get real deep into particularly three set pieces that really make this film up, because that's what this film is. It was they kind of worked out that there were going to be these huge set pieces, and then they had to kind of write the script around it, which explains a lot of what initially went wrong with this film, but it turned out to be oh so good, in my opinion anyway. So, and that was a spoiler alert for our ratings and reviews at the end. So, Mission Impossible, and this is my very own personal Mission Impossible, as ever, since 1967 Casino Royale's review on this podcast. It is now tradition for me to try to get through all of my notes and not get completely derailed by these two. So we'll see how we go. They haven't been day drinking today because we are recording on a Tuesday. John's not been very... Oh, hang on a minute. He's just gone to the beer fridge underneath. Oh, okay, fine. Well, you can't get high on that. No. Alex has a beer.
0.
Oh, okay. So we're alcohol free. Let's see how much damage these two.
It's not going to make any difference, Bobby. It's not going to make any difference.
Okay,
Sorry.
great.
No.
Fine. Mission Impossible 1996, a troubled blockbuster that changed action cinema. When Mission Impossible hit theaters in 96, it wasn't just another spy movie. It was a high-stakes gamble that nearly fell apart at every turn. Yet, despite behind-the-scenes chaos, clashing creative visions, and a convoluted script, the film became a defining moment in modern action cinema. So, how did Mission Impossible manage to overcome its obstacles to launch one of the most successful action franchises of all time? Mission Impossible is a spy thriller directed by Brian De Palma and starring Tom Cruise as Ethan Hunt, a top agent for the Impossible Mission Force, also known as the
IMF, the International Monetary Fund.
Very good, John. Audience participation when asked for. When a mission in Prague to recover a stolen list of undercover agents goes disastrously wrong, Ethan becomes the sole survivor and is framed as a mole within the IMF. On the run from his own agency, he must uncover the real traitor, clear his name, and retrieve the classified list before it falls into the wrong hands. As Ethan assembles a team of rogue operatives, including the enigmatic hacker Luther Stickle, played by Ving Rhames, he navigates a web of deception, double crosses, and high-tech espionage. That's the one thing about this film, is that when we rewatched it last weekend, it's actually the first time, having probably seen it about 15, 20 times, that I actually got what was going on. Because aside from the whole stealing half of the knock list, etc., it was really quite hard to follow when I was younger, and that reading reviews and things is something that comes up quite a lot. A lot of people did find this film quite confusing to follow.
It's interesting because this film is quite different to the rest of the franchise. This film, I think, is a much more Hitchcockian thriller rather than an action franchise, and I think that's what's maybe confused the younger viewer. It's a little bit more cerebral, and I don't know. I think that's a positive. I think perhaps some people who watch this film thought that's how the franchise would continue, and obviously it's become a lot more action-based set pieces. Alex?
Yeah, it very much felt like this was an homage to the series rather than something in its own right, and like even that first title sequence with the snippets that we'll come on to. So it's like even that was like direct nods back to the TV series.
Yeah, the TV series was much more team-based, isn't it, Alex?
Yeah, totally. And I think that's the thing. And in fact, that's why the TV series works so well, is because it was episodic. There was a short setup, and then there was the heist, and then that was all the tension, and then it was resolved, and then tune in next week for a new one, and that's why it works so well. But I just think this is very much of that theme. They didn't want to. It felt like they didn't want to break like people's expectations. They really wanted to do that, and so that meant that some bits of this are flat compared to like what we now expect of an action film. But it's so well done that it doesn't matter. So, but it's just the tone is different.
It has the proper espionage vibes to it that I think more so than any of the other films. There's that scene down by the river when Ethan has realised it's all gone wrong, and you've got the female character, I've forgotten the actress's name, the one that was in Fallings in a Funeral, and it's very kind of Cold War, people in the fog who are agents, and dark and code words. And for me, rewatching it, Bobby, I really enjoyed those aspects of the film. And again, I've watched it about 20 times, but still forgot. I mean, I knew the ending. I knew who were the bad agents in this, but I really enjoyed rediscovering how they kind of circled each other and the twists and turns.
Yeah,
Kristen Scott Thomas,
of course it is.
And the nuances as well. I mean, just to refresh your memory on the cast. So, the movie stars Tom Cruise as Ethan Hunt, an elite MFI, an elite IMF, because that's the memory, an elite IMF agent framed for betrayal, forced to go rogue to clear his name. John Voight, hamming it up as Jim Phelps. I mean, if there's one guy that seems to be having a good time on this one, it's him. The IMF team leader who plays a crucial role in the film's conspiracy, Emmanuel Bayard as Claire Phelps. She was smoking. I mean, like, if you could put her in with the Bond girls, she'd be right up there. As Jim's wife and a fellow IMF agent who survives the Prague mission. Ving Rhames as Luther Stickle, skilled hacker, former disavowed agent who joins Ethan's rogue team. Jean Reno as Franz Krieger, a former intelligence operative and pilot with questionable loyalties. Vanessa Redgrave as Max, like, she was wonderful. Absolutely delightful. A mysterious arms dealer interested in the stolen knock list. Henry Ciani, I think that's how you pronounce it, as Eugene Kittredge, the director of the IMF who believes Ethan is a traitor. Kristen Scott.
Does the actor who plays Kittredge, he comes back in a few films, doesn't he?
He does, he's
in the most recent ones as well, I think, isn't he?
He's not seen again, I believe, until the one with Henry Cavill, Rogue. Right, was that Rogue Nation? No.
You might be right.
Oh God, what's it called? Anyway, that one, the one with Henry Cavill, where Alec Baldwin is in it as well.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. And he gets betrayed and blah blah blah. Anyway, long into the future. Spoiler alert. Kristen Scott Thomas as Sarah Davies, a member of Ethan's IMF team in the opening mission, and Emilio Estevez as Jack Harmon, the team's tech expert handling surveillance and infiltration. And my God, the way they killed him off.
Yeah, not good.
Oof. Yeah. probably one of the most violent deaths in the entire, if not the most violent death in the entire series. Because it's pretty, graphic violence like this action franchise. But that was pretty. I mean, they didn't show it, but they kind of did, because
They
you kind of see the teeth of. Yeah.
If you pause it, I think they switched to some sort of dummy for the actual impact, but it's kind of implied, isn't it?
Well, you would think so, right? Poor Emilio.
Yeah.
I mean,
Did you see much of him after that, did we?
No. Weird. So there we go. So you touched, John, on the original 1960s TV show. So the Mission Impossible television series ran from 1966 to 1973, with a brief revival in the late 1980s. Known for its intricate espionage plots, the legendary self-destructing tape. That's the thing that I remember most. I don't remember really anything apart from that self-destructing tape. And a team of highly skilled operatives pulling off elaborate missions. By the early 90s, the series was a relic of the past until Tom Cruise saw potential in adapting it into a film. Already an A-list star, he was looking for more control over his projects. His newly formed production company, Cruise Wagner Productions, secured the rights and set out to craft a new kind of spy thriller. But instead of a straightforward adaptation, Cruise and director Brian De Palma took a radical approach. Make it a Hitchcockian thriller rather than a traditional action film. Well done, John. This would prove controversial for fans of the original series and lead to significant behind-the-scenes tension. Many expected an ensemble film similar to the show, but instead it became a star vehicle for Tom Cruise, who insisted on a narrative that would showcase his abilities as a leading man in high-intensity action sequences. First film, I believe, that he did all of his own stunts in. As development continued, the project gained momentum, but it also encountered an increasing number of challenges that would push the production to the brink. Why? What have I done? What did I do?
You said had to do all his stunts.
That's a drinking penalty.
So that's a drink.
Is that on Mission Impossible Bingo?
Yeah, we're working through it.
Okay, great.
For Mission Impossible, this, Bobby, before the podcast. I'm not sure we did.
No, should we do? Should we do real alcohol for Mission Impossible 2?
Yes. Okay.
Make it fun.
Right, go on then.
Okay, cool.
I'm going to need more beer.
I'm going to import some Doves as well.
Sorry, carry on.
I'm sorry. Okay, fine. Thank you. Writing Mission Impossible was, an impossible mission. The script went through multiple rewrites, and the final product was a jigsaw puzzle of different creative visions. David Koepp, who was responsible for writing Jurassic Park, wrote an early draft, but left due to other commitments. Robert Towne was brought in. He had previously written Chinatown, so he was brought in for significant rewrites, shifting the film's tone to something more cerebral. The problem was that the script was constantly evolving, and even as filming began, key story points were still unresolved. Adding to the challenge was Brian De Palma's meticulous approach to visual storytelling. So we know Brian De Palma's great work from Carrie to probably my favourite film of his is The Untouchables, especially for what scene in that film. At Grand Central Star. Oh God, it's beautiful. He was obsessed with crafting suspenseful set pieces, but often clashed with Tom Cruise and the writers over the film's narrative logic. One of the most contentious points was the infamous Langley heist scene, brilliantly executed, but requiring significant rewrites to fit it into the plot. The heist was almost cut entirely. Can you imagine that? A world where that scene doesn't exist, where would we be?
Well, without that scene, you wouldn't have the parodies that were in things like The Simpsons and Shrek 2 and Family Guy. All that kind of comedy material would have been gone straight away. What a scene that was.
Yeah, so they almost cut it, but the director insisted on keeping it, reshaping the surrounding story to accommodate the tension that scene created. And even worse was that De Palma and Cruise had very different ideas about pacing and tone. De Palma wanted it to be more of a slow burn, tension creating movie, while Cruise wanted something much more kinetic. This creative tug of war made production exhausting, with scenes being rewritten on the fly and actors sometimes unsure of their character motivations. At one point, De Palma nearly walked away from the project, frustrated by the constant interference. Cruise, however, was committed to making the film a reality, even if it meant making last-minute compromises. God, I'm exhausted just reading that. But there are some things there that personally I immediately jumped to. For example, Jon Voight. Some of his acting is a bit hammy for me. And I really believe, because he is a very good actor. I mean, look at his recent work, even now that he's in his, I think he's in his 80s, but Mickey Donovan in Ray Donovan, he's freaking awesome. He's a great actor. There were some scenes where I just thought, wow, he's just really just overplaying this, like he doesn't give a shit. For example, the scene on the bridge in the flashback where we see that it was actually him with a blood bag and stuff. That I just was a little bit jarring for me. And then I think
vaguely unexpressive. Oh, look at that! Next beer. I found him vaguely distant in this film. I don't know. I mean, there's a lot of controversy about his character anyway, because obviously in the original series, Jim Phelps was.
Was a goodie.
He's a goodie. The thing about Mission Impossible, the film, is it frames Ethan Hunt as the hero, whereas in the original TV series, there was no central hero. Every character had their moment, a bit like, a lot of TV series focus on a certain character. And so Jim Phelps was a beloved character, and there were a lot of people very, very unhappy, especially actually the actor who played him in the original series, about how he was treated in this film. But I guess they're trying to move, the first film, they were trying to move away from that formula to venture into their own style of Mission Impossible films, and they had to kind of, cut off the corners a little bit for this first film. Don't know how to think about that.
Alex, you're trying to find your bottle opener.
That's right.
Use your teeth, mate. Use your teeth.
He's got in his head. He's got the Mission Impossible theme going as he tries to find his bottle opener before we go to him with a question.
See, I quite liked his performance, but I think it's just I think it's like one of those things where if you're playing if you've got the twist and you're the one that's going to come back in the end, you kind of you're knowing something but you're not showing it. And I think that's the problem. Is Amy spotted it a mile off. She was just like, I don't know, about 10 minutes in, she was just like, I think, and then she literally went, he's going to be perfectly fine and alive, and then he just carries on and talks through the whole thing. I was just, this is why I can't take her to any movies anymore, because she literally will just.
This wasn't the first time she'd seen it though, surely.
I don't think she had memory of it. Maybe she had watched it before, but I don't think she had memory of it. But the thing is, when she went, "Can I talk through it?" I just went, "You're going to be right." And then she then said all of the things that she's going to say, and then I was like, "Okay, I'll tell you at the end." And then at the end, she was like, "I was right, wasn't I?" Yeah, you were spot on. But that's why I can't take her to the movies anymore. So, but yeah, I don't think his performance is that bad. I think it was fine.
I just meant in the grander context, sort of knowing what I've just told you now.
Yeah.
Now that you look at the film, was there anything that was sort of jarring you, whether it was the script, the plot, anything that seemed a bit muddled, that now kind of makes sense as to why that was? Or knowing that, are you thinking the opposite, that, oh, okay, that's a surprise, because the whole damn thing was actually pretty well put together?
I think it was fine, but I think the problem is it was following the old run instead of the new way of it doing it. So I think, and that's the thing, you can't. So that's why you can't really compare it, because we haven't seen those yet. We'll see them in the next episodes, and then we'll be able to talk about them. But so I think that's the thing. It was okay, but it wasn't as good as perhaps I remember. But the action scenes were worth it. But the acting, it wasn't great acting. I think Tom Cruise held it up really well. I think it wasn't for him. I think it would be an extremely mediocre film. But apart from that, I think the rest of them were okay. But yeah, it didn't stand out to me, this one. That was the thing, Bobby. That's probably why I had no real memory of it when I was younger. Because
it's really strange you say that, because that's what I mean. Because the reception to this film was so mixed. Because then so someone like you, it had no impression on you whatsoever. Someone like me, it left a lasting impression on me because it was so different. You know, almost like John was saying, you know, that sort of Cold War sort of stuff at the beginning in Prague, and then very Hitchcockian kind of thing. And it, you know, it was one thing. I turned around to Carolina and we both said it at the same time. We're like, they don't make films like this anymore, or often enough anymore. And at the time, it was quite different. Especially as we were coming...
The vibe of this is almost like a TV series. A lot of TV series now are like that, and films aren't, which is really interesting.
Because this is the thing. If you think about it in context, so GoldenEye was the year before and had the Russian connection there. And there's lots of things that are very different about GoldenEye. But it was just... That had an impact on me, whereas Mission Impossible... The things that had an impact on me were the action scenes, not the plot and the setup, and obviously that gets better in the future.
Here's a question for you, seasons. Alex. So, a year, 2 or 3 years after, actually about 2 years, it's 1998 after Mission Impossible was Ronin, and that was a similar sort of cerebral espionage vibe. It was a bit more thoughtful and slow. There was some really very good car chases, very realistic car chases. And then 2002, so a few years after, you've got the Bourne Identity, which is kind of grittier. So do you think the Mission Impossible franchise would have evolved differently if the Bourne franchise had come out before Mission Impossible? I mean, how would that have affected the Mission Impossible franchise? Do you think it would have been a more actiony film from the start?
Yeah, I don't think you would have had this particular one if Bourne had come before it. I think it would have been much more focused on Ethan, even more than it was. But and I think maybe what we're just seeing was Mission Impossible finding its place. But this was just the first one of that, and it took some time. You're right, Ronin. It was one.
I would argue that Mission Impossible found its place by about the fourth film, which was Ghost Protocol in 2011, because you've got Mission Impossible 2 was very stylized action. You know, Johnny Woo and his motorbikes and slow-mo, sort of almost Matrix-style circular shots. And then you've got MI3 was a bit more emotional, wasn't it, in 2006? But I think Ghost Protocol was the first one that led into all the ones we see now, more than anything else. So it takes its time to find its feet. And I think I would imagine that Tom Cruise's influence grew and grew and grew over the franchise. And that's why they're a little bit now.
The funny thing is, you know, I think across, it's probably a bit too early to actually be doing this sort of chat, but across the 8 films that it will be by the time this one comes up, sort of Mission Impossible 2 is kind of seen as almost like it's almost like fan fiction for me. It's like a standalone sort of thing over there. And it's a guilty pleasure, right? Because actually, it's not a terrible movie or anything, but it is guilty pleasure territory. But you could quite happily take that out of the entire series and just skip it. MI3 was brilliant because that was the first one I took Carolina to see in the cinema, and she didn't like Tom Cruise because of all the Scientology stuff and what she's seen of him in the media, and she didn't really sort of like him as an actor anyway because she thought he was a bit short and had a chip on his shoulder. But when she saw MI3... And she found out that he did all his own stunts, and because MI3 is such a great film, she that's it. She's just hooked on Mission Impossible. She's such a big fan of the franchise. But then he hires Brad Bird, who did The Incredibles, to do Ghost Protocol, and it just rocks from there. And then when Chris McQuarrie joins the team for MI5, and now you've got that sort of filmmaking crew who've been together ever since. It's just wonderful. Anyway, sorry, right, back to I Digress. We Digress. One of the film's most controversial choices was killing off the entire IMF team in the first act. The original series was an ensemble show, as the boys have been saying, with team leader Jim Phelps, played by Peter Graves, orchestrating missions alongside a rotating cast of experts. But the movie made a shocking pivot, introducing Jim Phelps, now played by Jon Voight, only to reveal him as the villain and wipe out the entire IMF team early on. Fans of the original series were outraged. Peter Graves, the original Jim Phelps, refused to reprise his role upon learning that his character was now a traitor because, yes, they had asked him to come back. The decision fundamentally changed Mission Impossible, taking it from a team-based spy thriller into a lone wolf adventure centered around one Ethan Hunt. At the time, it was a massive risk. Cruise was banking on his own star power to carry the movie. Fortunately, the gamble paid off, but it fundamentally altered the DNA of Mission Impossible going forward. Because when you hear Mission Impossible, you don't immediately think of the old series. Most people don't. They think Tom Cruise, right? It is the Tom Cruise show. And I don't say that in a bad way because I'm here for the ride. I love it. But it just really changed the essence of what made the TV show what it was. That whole kind of team dynamic and so on. So I can totally see what you were talking about earlier, John. Makes perfect sense. Now, let's get into these three set pieces, starting with Prague. So it's the fish tank sequence when he goes to meet Kitteridge at the restaurant that has got the aquarium on the first floor. While Mission Impossible is remembered for its elaborate set pieces, one of the most striking early moments is the fish tank escape sequence in Prague. This scene, where Ethan dramatically smashes a massive aquarium to flee from his pursuers, was a blend of practical effects, stunt work, and careful choreography that nearly went disastrously wrong during filming. De Palma wanted this sequence to serve as a pivotal turning point in the film, where Ethan realizes he's been set up and must go on the run. Rather than relying on gunfire or a chase through the streets, De Palma envisions something more visually arresting, an indoor escape punctuated by a sudden explosion of water, creating both a dramatic spectacle and immediate sense of danger. The idea was to have Ethan trapped inside the restaurant, confronted by Kitteridge, and instead of surrendering, he'd find an unconventional way to get out by blowing up a massive fish tank display and escaping through the chaos. The sheer volume of water, glass shards, and live fish would make for a disorienting, high-risk sequence that would showcase Hunt's quick thinking and desperation. And leading up to the moment where he blows the thing up, you can see, and for me, this was a nice little detail, like the difference between Ethan Hunt and James Bond is that Ethan Hunt, for me, is just got a little bit more going on in the grey matter because he's able to, he sits in the restaurant as Kitteridge is talking to him. He pinpoints the couple on the bridge and, all the other people that I'm obviously not as smart because I can't remember all of them.
You've got the waiter who was one of the serving staff, I think, in the actual the main ballroom. You've got the couple who were kissing on the Prague Bridge were also in that restaurant at a table, weren't they?
Yep.
And there was another guy as well, who was kind of geeky-looking guy, who was also in the ballroom. And it's a great scene because he's playing matchy, isn't he, with all the
exactly.
Music. It's really good.
Yeah,
and it's clever
but it
because
shows
you don't notice
why
them when he walks in and sits down. They're all there, and a viewer who's first sees that film just won't spot them. But it highlights how any good agent will scan the room, look for exits, and look at all the people when they come in, and he spotted it straight away. It's a clever scene.
But it's also the beginning of this sort of this mythos surrounding Ethan Hunt, where in future films, they talk about the fact that Kitteridge actually talks about it in the last one, that this is a highly trained, probably the best agent the world's ever seen, can't be outthought, can't be outrun, etc., etc. He's thinking 10 steps ahead of anybody else. So anyway, there we go. Right, back to filming this scene. So when it came time to shoot, the first take did not go as planned. So I wonder if your father-in-law was working on this as well.
Don't
Alex.
blame him, Bobby. Yeah. It's not his fault. didn't go right.
No. That was an interjection.
Don't sully the name of the Hansford name. Sorry, not Hansford, because it's his father-in-law. The maiden name of Amy's name. For goodness' sake, this poor guy.
Listeners,
anyway, it's not made of wood; it's made of glass. What are you talking about?
I'll make sure that this thing is on the blog so that you can read it for yourself.
I don't think he built that.
Okay,
but I'll check. I'll check.
That's not. I wasn't referring to that. I was just saying I'm surprised that he wasn't working on some of what we're generally talking about.
No, he genuinely.
It was. I just said it at the wrong time. My timing was wrong. Like John's singing.
All right.
The glass didn't break on cue, and when it finally did, the rush of water was far more powerful than anticipated, sending crews hurtling across the restaurant floor. While he wasn't... That's really weird bedroom shit there. While he wasn't seriously injured, he was visibly shaken by the sheer force of the stunt, namely your sex tape. Determined to get it right, the crew reset for another attempt. This time, the breakaway glass performed as expected, and crews managed to stay on his feet long enough to sprint through the waterlogged restaurant and out into the streets of Prague. The sequence was completed with a few additional close-up shots, but the bulk of what's seen on screen was captured in one single powerful take.
Bobby, I remember seeing Tom Cruise doing some sort of featurette for this at the time. I remember being really excited, and this is why I went to see it at the cinema. I think that was the beginning of the Cruise featurette showing all the stunts off, and it was the very first film, because I remember the making of this scene, and whether I watched it later on a DVD or it was kind of like an extra thing on TV. I remember them making this scene and thinking, wow, clever.
Why it worked. The fish tank sequence stands out because it subverts expectations. Instead of an explosive shootout, which is what we would expect, Ethan escapes in a way that's both visually spectacular and thematically fitting, turning his environment into a weapon, kind of like Jackie Chan. The use of practical effects but with more money, rather than CGI, gives the moment an authenticity that modern action films often lack. De Palma's direction also plays a crucial role, using slow motion and carefully framed shots to heighten the impact of the water bursting through the glass, combined with the eerie silence before the explosion and the sudden chaos that follows. This sequence remains one of the most memorable in Mission Impossible and an early testament to the franchise's commitment to practical stunt work and innovation. All the fish apparently were rubber model fish. No fish were harmed during the filming of that sequence.
I was going to say, Bobby, you mentioned about The Quiet before this starts. Brian De Palma, he does a very good job with silence. It's an impactful thing in a film, and just like the Langley break-in scene, which is very quiet because it has to be because of the noise sensors. I think he does a very good job of inserting silence into an action film for impact.
Yeah, and again, I mentioned The Untouchables earlier. It's another example of that. You know, that very famous slow-mo on the staircase when Costner recognises who... I need to watch that again. Anyway, it's brilliant. So, and also the silent bit towards the end of Carrie, where she goes to her grave, and I won't spoil it for anyone who hasn't seen that film, but it's a classic. The Langley heist you mentioned remains one of the most iconic scenes in the franchise. An absolute masterclass in suspense and practical effects. I don't know about you guys, but rewatching it, every time I watch it, I have to remember to breathe. Bringing it to life was not easy. The idea of breaking into the CIA's headquarters was inspired by classic heist movies, but De Palma wanted to push the tension to its absolute limit. The scene would strip away typical action movie tropes: no gunfights, no explosions. Instead, Ethan and the team would have to rely entirely on silence, precision, and then the scene would have to play out, creating the maximum amount of physical tension. The sequence was meticulously storyboarded, with De Palma envisioning it as a ballet of movement and restraint. However, this created significant logistical challenges. The vault's security system, triggered by sound, heat, and pressure, was designed to put Ethan in an almost impossible predicament. The concept was compelling.
Impossible, Bobby, yeah, you're saying?
Funny that.
Yeah.
But figuring out how to execute it was another story. That's the other thing, right? I couldn't see Daniel Craig's James Bond doing this. He'd just lose patience. He'd just go in and blow the place up.
Yeah, he just pull out a gun
very
and shoot
messy.
things, didn't he? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. There was a severe lack of guns.
He'd throw a vodka martini at it, wouldn't he, at something, and it would just like that would sort it out.
Yeah. Well, there's before
womanize more.
You mentioned there, Alex, the severe lack of guns, but Ethan has this no killing policy, remember? And we first see that when Jean Reno's character is going to kill the firefighter.
Yeah.
I think it's the firefighter or the security guard before they go up into the vents.
That's right, yeah.
And Ethan...
Yeah.
Exactly. And Ethan stops him and tells him 0 body count. 0 body count.
That's also a lot of good character development for Jean Reno's character, because he's a wrong one, isn't he? And you can see that from the various scenes he's in.
That's right.
Yeah, he was really good in this. He kind of come off the back of The Professional, Leon.
Yeah, Leon. It's a great film.
Yeah, exactly. Natalie Portman's divorced now.
I first saw Jean Reno in a French film called Subway with Christopher Lambert, one of my favourite films of all time, and he's very, very good in that as well. Very good. He's a very good character actor, actually, Jean Reno, I think.
Yeah.
There's not enough of him in films.
So, one of the biggest challenges was filming the moment where Ethan, suspended by a cable, is lowered into the temperature-sensitive vault. Initially, the stunt team attempted using counterweights, but keeping Cruise perfectly horizontal was nearly impossible. He kept tilting forward. There's another drinking game for you, Alex. There we go. Ruining the shot. After multiple failed takes, Cruise came up with an ingenious solution. He put pound coins in his shoes to help balance his body weight and keep himself perfectly level. Another issue was that the vault set was so silent, even the slightest rustling of clothing or breathing was picked up by the mics. The crew had to be exceptionally careful about sound levels, often pausing filming until the entire set was completely still. And one of the most memorable...
Bobby, why didn't they just record it and overdub it, with the sounds afterwards? Why would they have...
overdubbing is not... That's a Nolan thing. It's not a Brian De Palma thing. I think he's very much an in-the-moment director.
Yeah. It just sort the problem out, wouldn't it?
Yeah. Listeners, I just made that bullshit up just to shut him up so I could carry on.
Well, it worked.
You were impressed. You were impressed there for a second, weren't you?
This guy, he's done some research on this, hasn't he? Well done.
Yeah, no, it's not research. It's just movie knowledge. It's all up here, John.
Yeah.
Oh, right.
One of the most memorable moments in the heist is when a single bead of sweat drips from Hunt's forehead, threatening to trigger the alarm. This seemingly simple detail required meticulous execution. The production team spent hours testing different ways to achieve the perfect droplet fall, using everything from eyedroppers to controlled air conditioning. Eventually, they settled. I'm going to tell you, John, patience. This is why you don't interrupt. You'll get the answers coming.
It's part of the fun. I like interrupting.
Okay, John.
Yep.
Evans.
Yep.
Put your hand up, and I will come to you. Okay.
Oh.
But
okay.
don't speak. Detention. Eventually, it's the name of your sex tape. Eventually, they settled on a carefully placed dropper above Cruise, timing the release perfectly to match his performance, John. That's how they did it. It wasn't CGI. This is a very CGI-like film.
I thought it looked CGI, that drop. I really did.
If you think about where he was, hanging over the floor and everything, and then you see this bead of sweat, how he's meant to move his hand on his opposite side all the way across and turn it round, I don't know. So I did feel like that was from a music video rather than from the action scene. Anyway, it's the turn from here to here, right? How do you do that while you're hanging?
He's highly trained.
Anyway,
yeah. Don't try and work it out, assuming your physical form.
It's all that arm movement when he's doing his funny run, isn't it?
Yeah,
his arms are so like exercised from his funny run in the films, which we're going to talk about later on. This funny run. But he's just all bendy. He's all bendy now, isn't he? That's what it is.
How was he not sweating in other places? I'm just
Oh,
surprised.
hold on. Do you mean like in Prague, or do you mean like in his pants?
Like,
because he's probably deodorized, and he's got his T-shirt to soak it up anyway.
oh, okay. I've got like loads of. There must have been a spoof of this.
Where
like-
else do you drip from, Alex? Apart from your face?
Lots of places.
But
if you're
hold on,
sweating your
hold
balls
on.
off, then
But
you're
where
gonna be,
No,
you're
but
gonna be
where do
sweating
you
everywhere.
where do you drip? Like where the drip falls off you onto the ground?
Well, if you're hanging in front of stuff, then it could be like your pits.
He wasn't wearing
your
a crop top or
nose.
anything.
You could
Or, like,
it could run down his
cycling
hair.
shorts. Right.
You know,
okay.
it could like there's loads of his hair would have been the most obvious place, but
But I think
anyway,
it's a culmination of all the drops that emerged into one like his nose.
I just see this. I just picture this torrent of sweat, like
Thing
one
is,
bead,
right,
and
Alex,
then all of a sudden it all comes.
when you get really fit, like Ethan Hunt, you tend to sweat a lot
Right.
less because your body can cope.
I see.
you know.
That's what I've been doing wrong all my life.
Yeah, you've got to get fitter, basically. And then you sweat
Okay,
less.
all right, fair enough. Go on, carry on. I'm putting.
We
you
done?
off.
Yeah.
Can we play some
we're done.
cards now? Unlike typical action movies, the Langley heist relies entirely on silence to build tension. Composer Danny Elfman's score, by the way, what a score, drops out completely, leaving only ambient noises like breathing and faint mechanical sounds. The lack of music forces the audience to focus on every tiny movement, making the scene almost unbearably tense.
So, should we mention that, like Alan Silvestri did some of the score, and then Tom Cruise basically said no?
Yeah, go for it.
Because I just think, well, because the thing is, I mean, they're both good, both good composers, but I was just to say no to Alan Silvestri and then go to, I mean, I think Danny Elfman's probably a better choice, but I think that's quite bold of Tom Cruise on the first movie. I would expect that in later movies, but yeah, I just thought it was quite bold that he had recorded some already, and then they basically just decided in post production, yeah, not going to happen. Which, yeah, I haven't heard the Silvestri one, but it'd be quite interesting to see what was wrong with it.
It's quite.
Have you heard the? Sorry, John.
It's quite common in films for directors, producers to choose songs as placeholders before they decide on a composer or decide on a track. Perhaps
so you
they
think
used him
it
as
was
a placeholder and said no,
Yeah,
we're going
okay.
to work with Elfman because we've got an idea of a more holistic approach. I mean, maybe he was a placeholder, which is a bit sad for him, isn't it? Really.
Yeah, I think partly that the only reason I mention it, Bobby, was because you're absolutely right. They don't use music as much in some of these scenes, and I wondered if that was a factor of it. But we'll never know.
No. I mean, I think De Palma, he is a details guy. I mean, even if you look at some of his lesser known and least popular films like Snake Eyes, for example, if you've ever seen that film with Nicolas Cage, and that has a very long tracking shot at the beginning of it. But the amount of detail that goes into a lot of his work is quite incredible. And, you know, this heist scene, I could just watch it over again and again and again and again and just never get bored of it because of just how well executed it is. So yeah, there we go. So from that one and on to action set piece number 3, which is the train sequence that finishes the film off. If the Langley heist was Mission Impossible's cerebral centerpiece, the climactic train sequence was its high-octane finale. This set piece, featuring Ethan Hunt battling on top of a speeding TGV train inside the Channel Tunnel, was a logistical and technical bloody nightmare to film. From the beginning, De Palma wanted the final showdown to contrast the quiet tension of the heist with a full-throttle action spectacle. Early drafts considered a car chase, but Cruise and the production team pushed for something even bigger, culminating in a fight on a high-speed train.
Now,
However,
ditch the cars, right? Let's put helicopters into a tunnel. Even though, right, real-world physics, a helicopter wouldn't be able to fly into the tunnel for any reason.
Oh, really?
Absolutely No, it's impossible. Wouldn't have worked. Couldn't have done it.
Oh wow!
So it's
Mission
all
Impossible.
nonsense, but it's fun, isn't it? So.
Cool.
You've got a drink.
Why?
Because you said impossible.
Oh god.
Oh, well, it's gone from impossible to Tom Cruise does all his own stunts.
Well, no, there's a few. It's a bingo card. There's quite a few.
Oh, okay.
Keep going.
All right. Are you
setting
gonna?
the
Do you want to
ground
put
rules.
this? Do you want to put this Mission Impossible drinking card game together so we can
I'm
post
going
it
to
on
need
the
to
blog?
work on it.
Yep.
Because
Yep.
Yeah, and then
I can't
people can download it and sort of tick things off.
I think we're going to need another movie just to fill it up, though, because I don't think you could just use the first one as the template.
Okay.
But it's not a bad start. I've done all the corners so far.
Okay, great.
Can I explain why it would be impossible to fly a helicopter in a time? It's lovely that we did it.
It's bloody impossible for me to get through the rest of this, and I'm so close.
Okay, so let's just do a quick reality check here. All right. So first of all, there'd be a real problem with rotor clearance. There'd be a real problem with rotor clearance.
Yeah.
So actually, the tunnel only appears like a little bit wider than the MD-520N, which is the helicopter that Jean Reno is flying. Now, the channel tunnels, I've done some research on this, Bobby. Its service tunnel's diameter is about 4.8 metres wide, but the MD-520N's helicopter's rotor span is 8.3 metres. So it wouldn't even fit into the entrance. It would crash straight away. You've then got what's called the ground effect and airflow disruption. So helicopters lift by pushing air down. In an enclosed tunnel like that, the airflow would bounce off the walls and it would create all this turbulence. And also, you get what's called like a cushion effect, the ground effect, and it would make the helicopter impossible. Hold on.
Oh God, hang on.
To actually control going through.
There's one other thing.
Moon, high speed. There's you've got the problems with the engine exhaust and lack of ventilation, so it would probably overheat the engine as well. You'd also have problems with limited oxygen supply in the tunnel, and the explosive gum. Somehow that explosion destroys a helicopter, but flings Ethan forward onto the train rather than just vaporizing him. So, it would create a shockwave that would basically kill Ethan straight away. So it's lots of fun, boys and girls, but it's just so unrealistic, and that's the only thing that really put me off. I knew all that going in, because back in the early days, do you remember the adverts for, was it Juicin or one of the there's an advert with it might be one of those glue ones where the helicopter flies underneath a bridge. Again, it wouldn't be able to do that, and they used a model at the time because it was impossible to fly underneath.
There's one other problem because in the film film scene, you see two trains right next to each other, don't you?
Yeah.
And the channel tunnel's actually not like that. It's single train on each side, and then there are some passing places. So So I was trying to wonder where they came from, but I can't find the location for it. Because they did absolutely shoot some parts of the tunnel, but they must have reworked some of it because that wouldn't have aligned. I'll have to ask my father-in-law, see if he remembers. Don't hold your breath.
Okay.
Good job that you guys weren't working on set when they were joshing around the ideas for this.
So you can't do that. Sorry, Mr. Cruise. Sorry, that's not going to happen, mate. Sorry.
From the beginning, Brian De Palma wanted the final showdown to contrast the quiet tension of the heist with a full throttle action spectacle. Early drafts considered
on with this. It ignores it. It's
a
brilliant.
car chase, but Cruise and the production team pushed for something bigger, culminating in a fight on a high-speed train. However, filming on an actual TGV at 186 miles per hour was impossible, forcing the team to create... Sorry, they're now drinking.
Carry on.
Forcing the team to create a hybrid of practical effects and cutting-edge CGI. There's still a bit more to go, viewers. So if you want to get a bottle of whiskey or whatever takes your fancy and join in with these two reprobates, Simon Chambers, if your double-deckers have arrived by now,
they won't do, Doug, because I haven't sent them yet, mate.
Oh, you haven't? Okay, fine.
I have got them. I have got a pack. Simon, I've got a pack for you. I've been looking into how to send double-deckers to Canada. I did look at Amazon Canada. Apparently, there's a national shortage of double deckers in Canada, which is probably why you want them so much. So I have a pack for you.
He's going to sell them.
Yeah, keep one for yourself and sell the rest. Contraband, but they're going to come to you at some point. I've got to just navigate the British postal system to send them to you. So they are. I promise they are coming to you. Keep an eye out on your postbox.
Shooting the train sequence. The production faced an immediate, like that newsreader that just plows on.
Oh, I'm
Shooting
impressed.
the train
I'm
sequence.
impressed.
The production faced an immediate challenge: how to make the scene look real while ensuring the actor's safety. Initially, there were discussions about filming on a real TGV at reduced speeds, but the risks and technical limitations made it impractical. Instead, the production utilised a combination of blue screen technology, wind machines, and practical stunts. The interior shots were filmed on a full-scale replica of the train, allowing for controlled stunt choreography. However, the exterior shots of Hunt clinging to the roof required more ingenuity. A portion of the train roof was recreated on a soundstage with massive wind turbines blasting crews, and the stunt performers with air at over 140 miles an hour to simulate real-world conditions. Cruise, as always, insisted on doing as much of the stunt work himself. Gulp. Requiring him to train extensively to maintain his balance under extreme wind pressure. The Tailoring Talk magazine does not condone or support excessive drinking in any way, shape, or form. If you're affected by anything that my co-hosts are doing that might influence your mental state to a state of negativity where you come to rely on substances like alcohol, drugs, or anything stronger to get through the rest of this episode, please, I will put the number for Samaritans on the screen now. So the wind machine, there was only one of them in Europe, and they had that flown into Pinewood especially for this fact. And the TGV
wouldn't give permission, would they?
Yes, go on then, Alex.
No,
Still
you could do.
No, because I talk a lot, so it's nice for you to.
Well, they wouldn't give permission because they wanted to use the TGV instead of Eurostar.
But they did in the end.
But they did because basically De Palma visited railroads on 2 continents trying to find a suitable other location, and then Cruise went to dine with the TGV owners, and the following day
while De Palma was out of the country trying to sort it out.
So I think Cruise deciding to dine with the owners might involve a drink, because I feel like this comes up quite a lot. Someone said no, and then Cruise decided, and then.
Okay, great. This is just an excuse for Alex to carry on drinking. The sequence's most outrageous moment, where Jean Reno's character chases Hunt into the tunnel with a helicopter, was a massive technical challenge. In reality,
I bet it was.
Helicopter flying. I'd like to also take.
I bet it was bloody impossible, if you ask me.
To apologise on behalf of the Tailoring Talk magazine and its hosts for any offence caused to anyone suffering with Tourette syndrome. We recognise that this is actually a serious affliction, and no harm was intended in the outburst of one of our old blokes over there in the corner. So where was I? He got excited because I'd actually already researched the helicopter stuff, and
go for it. I want to hear this.
In reality, a helicopter flying at full speed inside the Channel Tunnel would create immense turbulence, making it impossible to maneuver. But realism was not the priority here. Spectacle was the priority. To achieve the effect, the filmmakers used a mix of miniatures, CGI, and live-action elements. The train and helicopter were separately filmed on detailed miniature sets with green screen elements composited into the final shots. The tunnel chase required a combination of practical effects and computer-generated enhancements to create the illusion of high-speed danger. One of the most intense moments, Hunt jumping onto the helicopter's skid as it explodes, was done with a mix of wirework and CGI augmentation. Cruise performed the jump.
Just before you move on to the actual practical parts, this is the one thing I thought that dated the film. I thought the CGI was a little bit chunky in this scene, and it's 1996. Fair play. I mean, it's a cracking scene, but it does date it a little bit. And actually, where they do most of the practical stuff keeps it timeless, which is interesting. Back to you.
Yeah, I mean, no excuse when Moonraker still looks freaking brilliant special effects wise to this day, you know, and that was like 20 years before.
They should have just done it on slow motion.
Yeah, Cruise performed the jump on the soundstage with the green screen, and the fire explosion was added in post. Despite advancements in CGI, the sequence had its limitations, and some effects appeared dated by today's standards. Thank you, John, for preempting me again. However, at the time, it was the groundbreaking. He's on half term as well, ladies and gents, so he's got a bit more energy than usual. However, at the time, it was a groundbreaking fusion of practical and digital techniques. The train sequence worked because it delivered exactly what the film needed, an explosive, high-stakes climax that contrasted with the earlier cerebral tension. It showcased Ethan's resourcefulness, physical endurance, and sheer luck, all while maintaining De Palma's signature visual flair. While the CGI may not hold up perfectly today, the sheer ambition and execution of the scene has cemented it as one of the defining action sequences of the 1990s. I mean, that final bit with the helicopter blade.
I love how the camera zoomed in on you then when you were doing your Mexican necktie.
Oh, did it?
It was quite cool. Yeah.
Apple are watching me.
Great direction.
Let's talk, before we go into the final bits of this, because we're almost there, people will be glad to know. Alex, John, are you ready?
Yep, got my bit. Yep, I'm ready. Done my research.
No.
What? Oh, Mr. Gadget. Sorry.
What are you doing?
There's a bit at the end of that where you hear like a
There
female
is,
chorus
yeah.
going, go, Gadget, go. Come on, mate. I don't
Well,
know
I'm doing the beginning. I'm doing the beginning
right.
bit.
It's like harmonising.
That's not it.
Inspector. Yeah, it is.
That's way better, isn't it, Alex? It is.
Over to you, Alex.
Yeah, I need to have a drink. Hang on.
He definitely does after that.
That's fine. I thought this would be an easy one, but actually, there's shed loads of gadgets. There's tons of them. This kept me really busy. Took me quite a while. I even had to do some research. You'll have now, because there is no convenient place for gadgets for Mission Impossible. You have to actually watch it. There's quite a few, so I'm going to rattle them off. If there's any of them that you have familiarity or you want to talk about, please let me know. There's a few that we'll talk about. So first of all, right at the start, obviously you get I particularly love the repetition of this because they do this at the end as well, of the hostess that's giving the videotape for them to watch. The interesting thing here is it really bugged me. I was like, what videotape format is that?
Yeah.
And it's actually VHS-C, which is the compact one that you see in camcorders. So all of the camcorder ones. There's quite a few different types, but it's VHS-C is one. So I just thought I just found it really interesting. So little things, because who has a videotape player in an airplane? But that's what they
first
went
class
with.
do, probably.
Yeah, exactly. I don't think.
Because probably back in the old days, like the only people that could actually watch movies and have fun were people sitting in first class.
That were loaded. Right. Yeah. So
they're all like knocking back champagne in for passing out anyway.
And smoking.
So the funny thing is, then they Then they have the live camera feed on the Visco glasses and the watch with the camera feed as well. They come back later on, but
that made me laugh.
That was like
Alex, that made me laugh. Because they can't even get the Vision Pro to get that small, and the fact that you've got these infinitesimal wireframe glasses broadcasting in HD.
Yeah, exactly.
It's so funny. Sorry,
but can I also say, because because we did the unboxing on the channel, if I work out how to do it, I'll put the link up in the corner for you guys and girls if you want to go watch that and get out of here. But I unboxed the Ray-Ban Metas, so I've been using them for a couple of weeks, and I have to say, I do feel like Tom Cruise when I've got those things on. Like I do. I have the Mission Impossible theme running through my head, and it's like, when you go, hey, what? record a video, and it does it instantly. It's so quick to react. It's so good, but you do feel very Mission Impossible in them. It's
probably a little bit.
I feel like
too, mate, to be honest.
Yeah, I feel like you need to. They were a little bit creepy. Once you work out where the cameras are, you're like, oh, okay.
Yeah, but if the light's on, then it's creepy because you're recording someone. But if the light's not on, people don't generally notice. I haven't had any funny looks.
No, you're just wearing big glasses, aren't you? So
yeah, but you know where they're really handy? When you're out and about, like, because I use line bikes in central London, so it's really handy there. Like, when someone's about to do a dodge and knock you over, you just tell it to start recording, and at least you've recorded your death.
Oh, I see. True. Gotcha. And you don't have to wear a big helmet with a
you don't need a big massive GoPro and stuff. Yeah,
okay.
I'm quite tempted to get some of those for my cycling, actually.
Yeah,
I hadn't thought of that, but that's actually
listening to music in the office. Because I've got the ones with clear lenses, so they just look like a normal pair of glasses indoors.
Did you not get reactions?
Yeah, I've got reactions, but indoors they're just like a normal pair of glasses. So no one knows that I'm listening to music. They just think I'm wearing my glasses that day. It's quite cool.
Oh, that's all right. You haven't got
anyway.
Sorry for anyone who's listening, so it's fine. Yeah, so we had the fingerprint scanner access to the lift. So that was a key bit, or the denied area, as it was called. I thought that was quite funny.
What's the name of your sex tape?
Yeah. Drink.
That's the best one yet, Bobby. Sorry, Alex.
That did just turn to be so sweaty.
God.
It's anyway. Fingerprint identification machine. We had the knock computer. You trying to put me off now?
Yeah. It looks like
we've lost.
It's just I'm thinking about it again. The denied area.
Oh yeah. Oh, right.
Sorry.
Well, let's talk about
been
internet.
Taking vitamin C.
You have, yeah. Let's talk about internet. I find it funny that they then said there was a message on the internet from Max. That was quite interesting. It's like, name dropping. We won't. We don't really count the explosive
It's kind of
gun.
sorry. Can I just say something? It's kind of funny how the internet worked for them, because I remember when the internet sort of came out about that time, you had to use Pipex or something. It took freaking ages to get online. Yeah, it took about 30 minutes.
I'm going to talk about that.
Noise, isn't it?
You might.
Showing our age now.
So
no, it wasn't R2D2, Bobby.
Wasn't it?
You might use internet link
R2D2. How dare you?
But no, I think it's like, how do you know that you're on the internet? Oh,
ISDN
it's just put internet link on in big letters. Oh, of course we would. Whereas in reality, that would probably be CompuServe or AOL. AOL was the one that I grew up with. But anyway, so that was fun.
Because you were rich.
The amount of no, because it was free. You got AOL for free for. You could get like a 3-month CD at the time, yeah. And so then you'd be like, great, that's me for the whole summer, awesome. Anyway, interesting. Showed the Netscape Navigator as well, which was quite good. Searching Usenet groups. This has become a technology.
Jeez,
anyway.
Can you stick to just gadgets, like James Bondy type gadgets? I don't want to know about every single thing that's got a wire in it connected to electricity.
So, Usenet groups. No, come on, Bobby.
I'm going to have a little. Just wake me up.
So the Usenet groups are a real thing. Generally, they were just used for porn, but there was quite there were legitimate uses for them. But most people just use them to download like really, really slow downloads of pornography.
What was your Usenet group called? The Denied Area?
Yeah, the Denied Area.
404.
Oh, that's good. Yeah, that is really good.
69.
We had some interesting uses of floppy drives as well, floppy tapes, floppy disks.
No, Bobby, no, it's too easy, mate. It's too easy.
So,
come on, leave it.
And that really bugged me because I was like, I don't recognise those floppy disks, and it's because they were high capacity floppy disks or high FDs. No, they weren't zips. They weren't. They were the alternative. They were done. The one that was used was by Verbatim, but basically it was like zip was done by iOmega, and then the high capacity floppies were the alternative. So it was another Betamax VHS thing going on. And then the computer that they downloaded it from was probably an Amstrad. I couldn't tell exactly, but because I didn't spend a lot of time there. But it had real like x86 vibes. So it was a 386 or 286. So anyway, a bit of trivia. This was the last motion picture from a major studio to be released for home video on Betamax.
Oh.
So there we go. Bet you didn't realise that. Anyway, let's carry on.
Alex, apparently the computer in the Langley scene was an IBM ThinkPad 701C that came out in 1995. They probably used a very modified version.
Langley?
Yeah.
Oh,
Langley.
okay. Yeah, I didn't spot that actually.
It was a
I'm going to have to time code
Windows
this so that all the
3.1.
boffins can join in at this point in the video, and the rest of us can
I loved
tune out.
Windows 3.1.
The thing is, at the time,
best.
the ThinkPad was one of the most advanced portable computers, so that's why they used it in the film, you see.
It was,
And they were
but
commonly
also,
associated with government and corporate use, weren't they? So it's a very good choice for
Yeah.
CIA.
They used it for the CIA, but then the thing is that the IMF uses exclusively Apples, so they were PowerBooks, which was nice.
Wow,
It
so
made
Apple must
me
be
laugh,
good.
Alex, it made me laugh because in reality, the CIA would not put
I'm not here
that
anymore.
important
They're just
on a
ignoring me.
portable device. They probably use it on a secure mainframe, not a portable laptop. So
Yeah,
it was all
exactly.
a bit silly, really.
Yeah, it was a bit.
Yeah.
So anyway, so that was great. But then we've got to get on to the actual job itself. So the Langley job, and what I loved was when they were talking, it was like all of the techno babble. I've got like a real soft spot for techno babble, and so
Send me your sex tape.
Luther was basically just dropping all of these really funny things. So he talked about the Cray, he talked about the Stew 3, which is a secure phone. It talked about cryptography.
Yeah, but he talked about
crypto was cryptography, not
Alex,
Bitcoin.
I'm going to pull rank now, and I hate doing this because we're meant to be egalitarian now that we're all co-hosts. But I'm going to pull rank, okay, as founder. You can't talk about stuff that physically wasn't in the film. Just because Luther was talking about it doesn't mean that you can freaking talk about it
But
and
he
get a
dropped
hard
so
on,
many.
okay?
He dropped
No,
so many bits.
no,
he
no,
talked about
Alex,
a
no.
chip.
He's showing
No.
his credentials, there, isn't he, really?
No.
All right, you can do that, but I'm going to keep talking because I've got.
Do you know what, Alex? I'll tell you what you can do. I'll tell you what I'll give you permission to do. Okay, and you're going to hate this.
Oh, it's zoomed
You
out
can
now.
go and record your own video. Go and record your own video as a bonus to this one.
Ooh.
And you can talk about all your gadgets to your heart's content. You can talk about what even Luther thought about that he didn't even say on film, but you could see it in his eyes. Okay?
I'm
Now
now
continue.
Googling Luther Stickle
Physical-
right now. So what there is.
Hold
on.
Physical gadgets, please. People, subscribe so you don't miss Alex's
I think-
techno babble bonus nonsense. Alex.
It's cool. I'm sorry. It was cool. Like he talked about crypto before crypto was a thing. So anyway.
This is true. Actually, sorry, I take back what I said. So, 1 second. Unshun.
Bring it back
unshun.
into the unshamed font now.
Unshun. So yeah, he mentioned crypto. How was that a thing back then? I thought crypto was like a new
cryptography,
thing.
not
Cryptography
Bitcoin. Cryptography
is kind of the coding of hacking, isn't it?
Yeah, it's how they do hacking and encryption.
Ciphers,
So
yeah.
it's a yeah.
Okay.
So
yeah.
it's
Now I
basically
understand.
security
Okay,
net.
shun.
Now you're not interested anymore.
No.
No, that's it. Now I've lost him. There's no benefit there. Anyway, let's talk about the Black Vault in Langley. So can anyone remember all of the security measures and how they get into the?
Yeah, I can.
So could
Yeah,
you?
there's the eye scanner.
Talk through. Yep.
Palm scanner, eye scanner.
So the eye scanner. Yep.
Yep. Then he walks through sort of a machine that
Not
scans
a
his
palm
body.
scanner.
No.
Not a palm scanner.
There's the biometric access, which is voice print and car key. There's the air
Voice
gap
print
system.
and card.
There's wasn't there also a key code you had to put in as well?
There was an access code,
Yeah.
and the retinal scan,
Yeah.
That's that. Those are the ones, and the cards. So that's
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
And what about the countermeasures?
Well, we did that. We talked about that.
So what was we did mention them.
The temperature sensor,
yeah.
the pressure sensor on the floor.
Yeah, pressure sensor.
The sound,
and then
toast,
sound.
toast,
Yeah, perfect.
Toast.
Yes, exactly. And don't forget the laser grid above on the thing.
The laser array above the vent thing.
And then, perfect. Top marks.
And the rats.
Well done, everyone. And the
rats.
Yeah, the rat's extra. They were. That's it. They were trained by the NSA, so they were very good. Couple more here. We've got. So what else gadget wise happened in Langley? We had the laxative pen. Don't want to be signing that.
I mean, can I just stop you there about that, the laxative pen? Now, I was quite impressed at how quickly the laxative. Speaking from personal experience here, how quickly the laxative kicked in that film. Most laxative powders that you take about 2 or 3 days to take in effect, but this thing was like instant. So that stuff must have been special IMF.
It went straight through him.
Gut rot.
Yeah.
Laxative. I was very impressed with that.
It was quite graphic. Yeah. But all right, so we'll come on. We've got the microdot to locate him as he was walking back and forth between the loo and the thing. We had the magnetic screwdriver, which I thought was quite cool actually, to basically unscrew it underneath, which was quite good. And then the sound sensor. Now, can anyone for extra bonus points? Can you say what do you measure sound in?
Decibels.
Thank you. Bonus points for John. That's awesome.
And we said it at the same time. It was lag.
We did. Yeah, that totally happened. Yeah.
So the other things that came up as we're getting towards the end are the phone trace, which was quite funny because by the time they traced it, we were all going, but isn't that Kittredge? Isn't that? And it was Jim Phelps, but it looked like Kittredge at the back of him, didn't it? So so that was fun. Max uses a Nokia, surprisingly.
Were they sponsoring the film?
I think they must have paid for that because it was on the whole of that Euro thing. They were all on Nokias, so yeah, that was all good. And the jammer right at the end, which was quite cool. So again, they've built a good way of.
Alex, wasn't it?
I loved Nokia.
Yeah.
I've got more to say on that.
Like, you could literally I had the Hutchinson Telecom before it became Orange. I had I had that Nokia, the fancy one. I had the flip one. I had the banana one when the Matrix came out.
I had my N95. I loved so much, Nokia 95.
I had the one where you could change the covers, different colours. The 8110, 8110.
I bought a C3PO one. It was gold, like C3PO.
Yeah, was it the 6520 or something? The one that literally you could throw it down the toilet and it still works. It was amazing.
I went through a phase of getting all of those retro ones back, but they're not as much fun nowadays.
No, they're not.
You start typing and then you go, "What is T9?" and you just, which is the predictive text, and it's rubbish. And then you quickly get bored with it. But the phones were tiny. We'll talk about communicator in another one because I have a soft spot for communicators, but not in this episode because this one doesn't have.
Alex,
I'm done.
Are you nearly finished?
Yeah, I'm all done.
Finished?
Now. That was it.
Oh, thank fuck for that. Next,
can I talk about running,
I'm allowed,
please?
Yes, you can. So we've got a new segment because we debated this a lot, and so Alex's natural thing transposed over to this from the Bondathon gadget guy, gadget man, gadget guru, and Inspector Gadget, whereas John was responsible for the Bonkathon on the Bondathon. And unfortunately, we don't think Ethan has sex at any point in the entire franchise.
I do.
I
do.
Okay. Oh, God. Go on then.
He does. So in this film...
Not on screen.
He definitely sleeps with Claire Phelps in this film. Definitely. He definitely
Right, but he doesn't... Not on screen. Only on-screen bonks count. So you don't have a job.
There are fairly... numerous
don't have a
implied
job.
bonks in Bond that we've counted, actually.
You know when
That's
you
true.
fire someone from their position and they just won't let it go.
Well, I think Claire Phelps
So
saw
John's
some
new role,
Ethan Hunt
which
action.
more family friendly.
Okay, that's
John is now our showrunner, running man, has got the runs. John, we will find a name for it, but John now will be keep on running. Dun,
Right,
dun,
okay,
dun, dun,
so here we go.
dun, keep
Right.
up. So,
Breakdown of running scenes. Here we go. So we are talking about Tom Cruise's signature funny run. So the intense high knee, arms pumping sprint has become almost a trademark across the franchise. It's a bit weird and intense. I sometimes call it his Scientology run, but I don't know. So his first run is after the Prague mission goes wrong, near the phone booth scene. When he realises his team has been ambushed, he runs through the streets of Prague in a state of panic. This is what I would call a shorter, more frantic sprint rather than the full Tom Cruise power run.
I didn't realise we were going to get a freaking scientific breakdown of every run. I thought you were just going to do what you used to do, the bonkathon, and just count them and just give us a number. Move on.
He doesn't start though. He starts off and he's trying to not tread on any of the fish as well. When he starts off, he really goes.
God, there aren't as many movies as the Bond.
Oh, sorry, go on.
So yes, the second one. So I'm counting them off here now. It's 2 so far. They're running from the exploding fish tank restaurant scene. I would say arguably his most famous run in this film. So after he detonates the gum, he runs through this high-end Prague restaurant, crashing through a giant fish tank, and this is the closest, I think, to the classic Cruise run in this film. Determined, fast, and dramatic. Then you've got running 3, escaping from the CIA in Langley. After he steals a knock list, Ethan makes a quick getaway. While this involves some running, it's more controlled and tactical rather than a full-speed sprint. And then finally, the fourth one, the final chase on the train. Now, wait for me here, hold on. I think this does involve more climbing and more action on top of the high-speed train, but he briefly runs inside the train whilst trying to outmaneuver Jim Phelps. And I would say the limited space on the train, it makes it not his full sprint style. But the final count, I would say, is 2 major running scenes with 2 shorter ones. And that's 4 in total. Bobby, over to you.
4. Okay. Are you going to keep... so can one of you two volunteer to keep the spreadsheet for the Mission Impossible-a-thon or whatever we're going to call it? Yeah? Okay, thanks. That includes the scores as well.
Okay.
Can we go back to just 1 second? Because I kept really quiet, but I didn't talk about the bonks. And I feel like we need to mention that basically there's a missing scene between Tom Cruise and Emmanuel Bayard, because there is the thing is, if you think about it, there's loads of chemistry but nothing happens, and the reason that nothing happens is because it's missing this scene, and that scene they kiss. So
can't believe I'm about to do this.
Foreplay.
Go on.
Foreplay. That was foreplay. It was.
It was foreplay, right?
Yeah.
Go on, Bobby.
That's the name of your... Well, that was foreplay is the name of your sex tape.
Oh God, I got drinking.
No, I disagree, because I think the chemistry between them is actually... It's like a cracked mirror, because I don't think he ever fully trusts her through the entire film. I don't think he ever trusts her.
I'm going to have to go back.
Because don't forget, again, this is Ethan Hunt. No,
Yeah,
I think...
It's strongly implied.
He's never... Because he sees her in the car before it explodes. And we see in a flashback that possibly she's the one that detonated it when the other one left the other one, detonated it, etc. But because that went through his mind, I don't believe that he ever trusts her through the entire thing. So there we go. So go watch it again and then come back and we'll have that conversation.
Are we going to officially say then that on the scorecard that the number of bonks in this film is 0?
Yeah. There's nothing on screen. Okay, you can't assume what you didn't see happen.
Do you think she was being a bit flirty as a sort of a spy skill? The seduction is
she was, because the whole
inside.
idea, they were trying to get the knock list and the money basically, That was it. They were trying to do the deal. She was in it with her husband. That's why she was shocked. And she kind of got her comeuppance because she, he was basically a bastard. So there we go. Reception and legacy. Production budget, $80 million. Grossed $457.7 million at the box office globally. That's pretty sweet. Despite the script issues and creative clashes, Mission Impossible was a massive hit, grossing over $450 million worldwide. Critics were divided. Some praised its stylish direction and tense sequences, while others found the plot incomprehensible because they were thick and stupid. Roger Ebert famously described the movie as a nearly impossible mission to understand. But what Mission Impossible did was set a new standard for spy thrillers. It reinvented Cruise as an action star, paving the way for his now famous dedication to insane stunts. And despite the backlash from fans of the TV series, the movie's formula proved successful enough to spawn a franchise that only grew more ambitious with each sequel. Final thoughts. By all accounts, this movie should have been a disaster. Chaotic script, creative infighting, risky storytelling choices threatened to derail the film at every turn. But thanks to Cruise's star power, De Palma's stylish direction, and some truly unforgettable set pieces, the film not only survived, it thrived. To some, it may not be the best Mission Impossible movie, but it's the one that started it all. And looking back, it's fascinating to see how a production filled with tension, uncertainty, and last-minute rewrites gave birth to one of cinema's most enduring action franchises. The mission may have been impossible, but somehow they pulled it off. Ratings.
Name of your sex tape, by the way, that is. Somehow they.
That wasn't funny. It's not funny when you say it. Okay. Ratings, Alex.
So I'm going to give this a solid 7. It's
why
coming
in.
in.
Why are you sighing?
It's coming in at 7.
I was going to say use the word solid 7 as well.
Oh,
yeah,
sorry.
That should go on the bingo card for Alex's. Yeah.
Oh,
no, but don't leave Alex a clean slate. Okay, he's still got PTSD from the Bondathon ranking debacle.
Okay.
Sorry, Alex. You were saying 7, a solid 7.
Yeah, so it's a solid 7. It's a compelling watch, although it's not brilliant. But like you said, it sets up the genre, so I'm happy with that. Yeah, it was good. I also particularly enjoyed all the retro tech, which is that definitely got an extra half point.
Brilliant. Anyway, John.
I'm going to give this a solid 6. It was going to be a 7, but it lost points for sketchy special effects and the absolute outrageous degradation of the Jim Phelps character in this film as the main plot. Having been a fan of the original series, so it lost a mark there. So good soundtrack though. I thought very good direction and editing from De Palma and his crew. Yes, a 6, I think, is a good starting point for the series as well. Also, because it's so different to the rest of the films, I think we can be a bit unique with the scores here. Bobby, how about you?
So my view of this is not sullied by the TV series because I never really saw that. My only memory of that is a dim and distant, the tape bit at the beginning when they got the mission. So for me, it's an 8 out of 10. I think it was quite a different film at the time, and the fact that I watched it so many times and it's got such an amazing soundtrack. The action set pieces are brilliant. It was well directed. I think given the problems that they had, I think having watched it now as an adult with half a brain, that they actually pulled it off really, really well. And it was responsible for kickstarting one of my favourite action movie franchises ever, alongside the Bond films. So 8 out of 10 from me, John, for your spreadsheet, if you're doing the spreadsheet.
I am filling it in as we speak now. I've gone all the way down to Mission Impossible 18, just in case as well.
It might take us that long to record it. So, yeah.
I don't think there's going to be many more because poor old Cruise is knocking on 60 now, isn't he? He's about 63, isn't he?
That's it.
He's 62 now, I think, isn't he?
Right. Sorry, Tom, 62.
Going to be on in a Zimmer frame, isn't he?
I mean, there'll come a point where he just can't do his own stuff.
Zimmer frame.
Zimmer. I'd like to propose a dating system where we have dates for the films as BB and AB, which is before Benji and after Benji, because there's definitely as well. So we'll come back to that later on.
Yeah. Okay, brilliant. Anything that you two want to add before I sign out here? No? Good.
I think there's another feature, which is tenuous links to the films personally. So we've got Bob. This is the scorecard. We've got Alex's father-in-law. All right. So tenuous. I'll get into the scorecard now. Tenuous links to the Impossible Mission franchise. Okay.
Okay.
So in this one here, I'm going to write down Alex's father-in-law.
Okay, cool. You could also write down Bobby trying to get through this whole damn thing is a mission impossible.
Okay. I'll go drink, aren't we?
Did you sell any computers to Mission Impossible?
No, because the ones that got sent to Pinewood from me were for Eon Productions.
Okay.
Not for this.
Okay.
So there we go.
That's fair enough.
And also, this film came out before I was doing that. So.
That's reasonable. Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah. Anyway, there we go. Right. Thank you all so much. Thank you, you two. It's been interesting hanging out with you for this. I'm really glad that there's only 7 more of these. Thank you all so much for joining us on this episode. If you're listening in the traditional manner, on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, please leave us a rating and a review. And if you're watching on YouTube, please drop us a like, share your thoughts in the comments, and hit subscribe so you don't miss our next Impossible Mission. If you've got any more sex tape names for Alex, then drop them in the comments as well, because John and I will read them out in a bonus episode.
I'll be starting them off, mate. Fair. I'll be starting them off.
Be good to each other. We will be back to review Mission Impossible 2. Take care, and we will see you on the next one. Bye-bye.
Bye.
That's it.
We're done now.
I think you guys have done enough.